Hello and welcome to this episode of Hobby Banter. This series is meant to keep you a bit of company during like roughly an hour of hobby time, and hopefully motivate and stimulate you a bit to get some work done. Today I'm once again going to continue on the Dragon Prime. I already mixed my paint up in a mixture of 3 parts Hexlegion and 1 part black. It's a bit more than just 3 to 1 because it's a big model, and I'm going to continue working on basically the darker areas of the carapace armor. But that's not really the important part of this series, clearly. Feel absolutely free to let me know in the end of the at the end of the video in the comments what you've been working on and what you plan working on. I'd love to hear about that, and if you want to send me some pictures or a link to your Instagram or your own YouTube channel if you have one, and I'm missing out on that. I love watching other people's projects and progress. So last week I talked a bit about feeling really crappy and not being in a happy place. Actually, it turned a bit around. I'm feeling much better now, thank God. And I feel like I am on the road back to happy mode. Happy mode is a big word. I'll always be a little bit more negative than other people. That's just my nature. That's okay. That's perfectly fine to live with. But when it's really bad, it's really bad. I don't want to do anything. I'm not interested in doing stuff. It's also the moment where I do realize that I shouldn't be making any big decisions or important decisions, which I tend to not make then, because it's always going to be the decision that I'll regret later. To give you an idea, last week it actually played in my mind to just simply delete this whole YouTube channel, and that's how bad it can get. And therefore I tend to avoid stuff like the YouTube channel, and I'm also not really interacting a lot on it, where normally I'll be a bit quicker. Still, I think it could be better, but I'm not always sitting with my phone in my hands, replying super fast. I try and do it at least twice a day to just check my comments and reply on one in the morning and in the evening. But sometimes I just don't get to it, and then it has to wait. When the kids need to get dressed to get to school, or something else comes up which needs my attention first. So once again I'm painting with my size 1 brush. Being able to have a nice amount of paint, just going a bit quicker. The thing I'm really focusing on for this layer really is getting the shadows nicely in place on the model. So because of I wasn't feeling that good last week, I didn't really do a whole lot. I was really tired, and it felt like I was just not getting my rest, basically. Which, on the other hand, is pretty logical considering the situation. So I decided to go and sleep on the couch for a couple of nights. And then my wife slept on the couch for a couple of nights, not because we're having trouble or something, but so that we both got a bit more rested, and it worked. It paid off. I started to feel a whole lot better pretty quickly, and I actually have quite some energy back again. So that means I'm sorry, I'm still having a cold. It just doesn't wanna go away. But having more energy means I'll have more enthusiasm to paint a bit, and to also turn the camera on whilst I'm painting. I'm busy painting up a couple of tutorials at the moment. I think I already said that I was doing some Necron tutorials. Because of they're popular. The Cryptech one is one that gets quite a lot of questions going. So I decided to answer those questions. It would be nice to just make extra tutorials on them. And hopefully that helps people out then. I finally figured out how to do those pop-up cards in the top of the screen, and not that there's going to be one in this video, but so I'm trying that out a bit in some older videos. And in that way I can easily, close to the end of a tutorial, link to another tutorial that's close to that one, or that is roughly the same, showing some other stuff. I have been thinking of just making tutorials about roughly everything I paint. But on the other hand, it nearly feels like I'm making the same tutorial over and over again. Let's say I would do oh, I forgot to paint a bit here. Well, I didn't forget that this time, but last week, but that's not really a big trouble with these dark close together tones. But you know, for example, if I do a Tyranid Gaunt, I do a tutorial, and if I do a Warrior, I do a tutorial, and but it's going to be the same thing over and over again, so I'm not really sure if I should do that. Would save quite some money though, not having to constantly go and buy models for tutorials. Because how I was feeling lately, that's also a reason why there haven't been a whole lot of tutorials. They are by far the most time-consuming videos that I make. Even though the battle reports might take a bit more time to film, but well, not in all situations, not for all of them, but On the other hand, playing some games also relaxes, so way more than painting a tutorial. Um, quite simply because doing a tutorial, I really have to be aware of where the camera is at and where it's focusing on, and if I'm in screen, and all that kind of stuff. Um, so that I'm thinking about that, but I'm not really sure. One thing that I am sure about is that I'll never put tutorials behind a pay lock, because I feel everybody should be able to watch them and benefit from them. Actually, most of the stuff I learned came for free as well, so I don't feel I have the right to demand demand money for it. So if I'd ever start a Patreon, and there would be a tutorial on there, it's absolutely also gonna pop up on YouTube, because, like I said, everybody should be benefiting from it. I've said it before, I'm not the best painter in the world, and I have no ambition in becoming that. I don't give a rat's ass about painting competitions and stuff like that. Even though for this year I do plan on participating on Armies on Parade, but I don't really. That's not really a serious painting competition now, is it? And that would be just for fun, to have a laugh and a good day. So I would have to decide which army I was going to take, but since an army needs to be on there, but it also shouldn't be too much. If it's too much, it's going to be too crowded and it's not going to work. Because hopefully by, when will it be, September, October, I'll have a full 2000 point Tyranid force, but on a 2x2 board, 200 guns aren't gonna really look really good. That's gonna be way too cramped, so I might just decide to take the orcs or the necrons for it. Just continue painting on those two groups a bit, and maybe the orcs will be the best size by then, because I don't plan on buying a whole lot of them. Maybe one box of what's their names, more Burnas to make the other variety. Was the Ludas, right? I think they're called Ludas, and mainly because I think adding a couple of Ludas to the kill team pool would be nice, and the Burner Boy leader dude, Spanner, isn't working the way he's equipped right now, and instead of taking him apart and giving him a different weapon, I'd rather just get a new box and work with that. It's easier, and probably the damage that I'll cause to the model is gonna, in both circumstances, be just as much time. So, and this is the actually the most horrible bit of painting the Tyranids, getting the bottom side of the carapace pieces painted with the purple. It's a good thing it's only a couple of layers. This time I've put a bit less of the glaze medium in the paint. And I normally put in some matte medium and glaze medium. The matte medium will prevent the paint from drying out quickly, and the glaze medium will improve the flow of the paint a bit. So basically, if you throw in a whole lot of the matte medium, you'll just get a wash, and a good wash, that is, so no breaking up pigments and stuff like that. But last week I put in so much that the model didn't dry, so I had to revert to painting some other stuff. And before I started recording this video, I already have been working on a bunch of guns and my other 3 biovores actually. Finished the one, which you if you've seen the studio vlog, it's in there in the last roughly minute of the video. Put the biovore on the turntable. The other 2 are the other 3 are work in progress. They're in there as well, but they're not that special at the moment. We also, Igor and me, we plan on playing 1000-point games of Necrons and Tyranids to just to see who's boss. And Igor wants to play with Tyranids in that game, so I'm pretty scared for that game. Not that sure if the Necrons have all the answers ready for the Tyranids, and especially not with the Necrons that we have available. And that also is a good reason to paint 15 extra Immortals actually. I think you can see it, but I make sure I just leave a little line of the previous layer visible near the edge of the carapace in this situation, so that later on we'll get a nice transition from dark to light, but that's still pretty far away. So yeah, Necrons versus Tyranids. It's going to be an interesting game. Hopefully we'll get to record it within like 2 weeks. And it's a bit depending on when I finish the Immortals. For the Tyranids I don't need to add any more models at the moment. The only goal I actually had was, if I had a biovore already, I'm going to put it in there because I want to see how it performs. I think it's a pretty solid choice for Tyranids, especially if you can keep them nicely hidden with, for example, a Melanthrope next to them, so they get an additional -1 to hit. Other no line of sight required weapons will actually have a pretty hard time hitting them. And in case you're not familiar with the biovore, the biovore isn't unhappy when he misses, because then you get to place a spore mine, and spore mines cause mortal wounds. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing if he misses. I've always liked Biovores. Back in I think 3rd edition, I always had one in my army. Just because of the coolness of being able to place those spore mines and have some laughs with those things. They weren't really good. They're far better now. As back in the day, that were just like a strength 3 template, and yeah, they didn't really played a whole lot against Marines back then, so they weren't really that interesting. But nowadays, now they do mortal wounds. They can be far more interesting, clearly. Just curious to find out. So this past weekend we went to the circus with our 2 little daughters, and the oldest 2 kids were at their father's house. That was good fun. They both really enjoyed it, so therefore I enjoyed it. For me personally, we don't need to go to the circus. Seen it when I was young, and yeah, basically it's all the same. And we went to McDonald's afterwards, so they really had a good time. Especially my youngest daughter gets to pick food. It's gonna be McDonald's, so she was extremely happy with the choices mom and dad made for that day. So on Sunday I didn't really do a whole lot. Yeah, I did a bit of painting and I watched Formula One, but kind of happy that that started again. And I love watching that. And I'm already looking forward to the upcoming couple of races, because it's going to be kind of exciting to see who's going to be in the top positions this year. But I'm not going to be talking too much about sports, because I do understand not everybody wants to listen to that. Well, something else that also made me happy a couple of weeks ago is that Netflix is having The Walking Dead up again, and also season 7 and 8. I am currently watching season 7. I think I have a couple episodes left, and then I'm through that season. So that's nice. Pretty happy I finally get to continue watching. Well, this is going pretty nice and fast at the moment, actually. So they finally also showed us Abaddon, and oh, I love that model. So I'll be definitely be pre-ordering one of those this weekend. It has been quite some time now that I just saw a new model, which I said I absolutely need that model, and I don't need it in an army or whatever, but I just want that model. And this new plastic Abaddon is definitely one of them. I like a lot of the Gene Stealer Cult models they recently released, but I passed on them. I didn't find them that special and unique. Even though I don't mean they're not looking good or whatever, because they do look really good. But I didn't feel that they brought something new and special. So therefore, I decided to not buy them. On top of that, all the Gene Stealer Cult models that I actually had, because of in the Kill Team box, and I had some from Death Watch Overkill. I gave all of them to Igor because he wants to make a Gene Stealer Cult Kill Team. And since we are going to split the box set that was was released this last weekend, I don't have it yet, but I'll see if I can make another kill team out of those Space Marines. Igor will take the Chaos part. And which on one hand is a shame, I'm not a Chaos player, but on the other hand, yeah, why should I be sitting on those models? And not, they will never get used if I build and paint them. And knowing myself, if I'm not going to use them, chances are they're not going to get painted anyway. Maybe I would paint like one or two for some tutorials, and then, or just for fun, and then the rest of the box would be collecting dust somewhere in a corner. That's just not a good use of that amount of money. I think Abaddon is the right size. He's about the size of Gilliman. They had the designer interview on the Warhammer TV. And they were roughly the same size. Gilliman is standing a bit higher on his base due to the rock thing he's standing on. But that looked really nice. And I think they'll also look really nice in a... if you put them up against each other in a more diorama-like setting. So, yes, pretty enthusiastic about that one. The initial stuff they showed didn't look that good, in my opinion, especially the sword. But seeing the whole model, it's working. So it's I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to stop the camera for a bit because I need to blow my nose once again. So I'll be back in a couple of seconds. So I'm back. In the meantime, I also quickly with the hairdryer dried the model. And I already made the new mixture. You see, I still missed some small parts here. This is the paint from the previous layer, by the way. So the new mixture consists of 5 parts hex legion and 1 part black. So I'm gonna continue highlighting Bob here. Let's call him Bob. like I mentioned before, this model I accidentally, well, no, I didn't buy it accidentally, but I bought it in a batch of other models that I actually wanted to have. This one wasn't on the want to have list. Once I got it, I played a couple of games with him. And this is back in 7th edition, by the way. And I actually had a lot of fun back then. You could I played Atlas Swarm formation, which basically meant if a unit of guns was taken out, you got to roll a d6 and a 4 up. It would just re-enter the table. But this thing, he dug a tunnel, and when he was on the board, you got to place a marker, a tunnel marker, and your units that basically respawned got to use his tunnel. It was actually pretty cool. Where I said that I've said before that my AdMac really had a overpowered formation. This formation I feel really added to the feel of the army. Gave more like a lore-wise correct effect on the table. Where the AdMac War Convocation clearly was, even though I didn't even maximize everything I could, it was so beardy and overpowered and actually just lame to play with. Playing with that actually made me decide to do a Tyranid army again. So this army so far has been a real labor of love, because it's already taking me now, I think, nearly 3 years or something like that, to maybe even longer. But I'm never in a rush of finishing an army, and I'm always perfectly okay with just, if I don't want to continue for a while painting on it, to just put it to a side and go do something else, and we'll get back to it later. And that also has happened to the Nids, so and it might happen again. I made plans for this year to paint, I don't know how many, I think around 140 or something. But if it's not happening, it's not happening. It's going to be okay. So far it's looking pretty good, by the way, so as long as I have my my list legal and somewhat playable at the end of the year. With that I mean shaped in the way I want it to be shaped, with largely the models that I want to use. I'm gonna be happy, and it looks that I'll easily make that, because yeah, I already have a whole bunch of guns painted clearly. I think I have like around, come on, around 130 finished at the moment, so the goal is to get to 180, and it's doable, it's easily possible. And now 8th edition, I also feel that the AdMac are way more fun to play with, and probably also against, because I made a bit of a mistake. So, but there. So I just cleaned it with a bit of water since the paint is still wet. I think they're not that bad to play against right now, even though the meta uses the Rusty, what is it, 17? In case you don't know what that is, that's 3 5-man squads. Each squad rocking 2 special weapons, and then 2 tech priest engineers, and just to get the command point farm going. I'm not inclined to start doing that, since they also use multiple codexes in this situation, by the way, and I'm more of like a mono codex army type of guy, to keep it more lore-wise correct, and keep it funny for everybody, both myself and my opponent. So what do you guys actually think about the Abaddon model? Do you like it, or should they have not replaced him, or just leave him as he was? Like I said, I like it. I like him. I'm definitely gonna get me one. And if I have the time, I'll actually try and make a tutorial within a week of his release. That should be possible. I'm just picking a day and painting. He's a bit larger, but he shouldn't be. He definitely shouldn't be taking me a couple of days to paint. He's not that large. And then later this year we're also going to be having sisters. The renders they're showing so far, they look really good. I don't think I'll be getting them, but because I don't really see the need in getting them. I have been, with the announcement of Kill Team Elite, I have been thinking of making a Custodes Kill Team. But that's super depending on the rules. If I think they're just too unkillable, I'll skip them. I have no interest in games that only last for 2 turns, or quickly become one-sided. And I think, well, you know, if 100 points means you get to play with 2 of them, that's gonna make for interesting games, because it would also make him unplayable in arena, especially against more horde-like teams, since they will never be able to control several objectives. And if you then just feed them enough targets, you can constantly be disclaiming objectives, and perhaps accidentally killing one. But I'm guessing it will be a team of 3, or with the elite expansion, the points will go up a bit. That's also an option, clearly. But we'll see. And that new Age of Sigmar Warcry thing is also something I'm super interested in. I'd really like to see what that's gonna bring. I said it earlier this year, I think in the Q&A, that I really would like to see a kill team variant for Age of Sigmar. But not with a card system that Shadespire uses. I mean, Underworlds. Underworld's pretty fun, but it's I've noticed a couple of times it's way too relying on the cards, and it doesn't add, in my book, to the game. So not that it's a bad game, it's a fun game, but as far as I'm concerned, the cards, they could have been just taken out, and I think the card system in Kill Team Arena is better than Underworld, with drawing secret objectives, and get to do that on top of objectives both players need to try and get. It makes the game more. It makes the game go faster. You know what cards you have. It's only 3. Instead of a handful this turn, a handful the next turn, you're forgetting which ones you have. Constantly having to cycle through them. You have like a bunch of objective cards in your hand, a bunch of extra cards in your hand for upgrades and stuff like that. And those upgrade cards, they could have just been gone. I don't feel they add a whole lot to the game. But then again, it's perfectly fine if somebody else says, no, that's just what actually makes the game really good. I constantly get myself not using the upgrades, because you actually have to pay like victory points to use them, and therefore a lot of situations I would rather not use them and keep the victory points. Especially if you're ahead with a couple, why not try and keep the lead? But well, that's just my opinion, and Games Workshop doesn't listen to me, so don't worry about my opinion. That one. Once again, making good progress on this guy. By the way, if you don't want to watch this model anymore, or for a while, let me know as well in the comments. I mean, I have more than enough other stuff to paint, so I could do something else in a couple of the upcoming episodes, and bring this guy back later. Maybe I continue off camera a bit on him, as long as he's finished by the end of the year. I'm happy. So I'm not really in a rush to get this guy finished. But I can imagine you don't want to see the same model every week, in case you're actually really watching the video. Is there anything else I have to say? I could talk about. Didn't really get anything new. Yeah, well, I had been thinking about participating in the Terrain Square Challenge from Idic Beer 40k, but I decided not to. Several reasons. I have more than enough to do. I'm gonna build the pieces anyway later this year and paint them, but because I want to make a table or a terrain set, not an entire table. But I have a couple of commissions that I need to finish, and the way I was feeling, I decided not to start another project right now. And I think that's the correct decision to take. Even though now I actually think, well, I could just pick it up, but I'm also afraid that if I do that, it's basically shooting myself in my own foot, and I don't want to do that. Let's enjoy the ease of the peace of mind and just feeling a bit better for a while now, and then when I get some more stuff done, I can get started on the terrain pieces. Well, back to the talents, I guess. Getting there. So at this moment, my wife is going to the hospital with with our 4-year-old. She to the eye doctor. She needed glasses a while ago, so just a checkup. But she doesn't really want to wear the glasses, so well, we're hoping the doctor is going to tell her that it's kind of important to wear them. She wears them to school, and the moment she gets home, she throws it to a side. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It would be beneficial for her if she would just keep it on her head. That's what it's for. But yeah, I don't know. I also don't know how it feels. I don't wear glasses, but if I would need to, I wouldn't mind. What's needed is needed. And I think especially if I would need glasses, I also would need them for painting. So I would be pretty inclined to wear them a lot, because I try to paint a lot. I enjoy painting figures, so. But I think that's pretty clear. I don't know what we're gonna eat tonight. One thing's for sure, we got cake. Our 4-year-old always is, well, fighting is the wrong word, but she is pretty annoying during lunch and dinner and breakfast. Nothing's good. A lot of screaming and crying going on, and actually went to the point that we didn't even enjoy having dinner together anymore. So my wife decided we're gonna try and do something with a reward system for her, and she would get stickers whenever she behaved, because it's more like misbehaving than it's actually something that's wrong. To give you an impression, what happened was, for example, she comes into the room, she starts, I want to sit next to mommy. She gets a chair right next to mommy. Then she goes, no, no, I want to sit next to daddy. So somebody else has to move. And when that has been arranged, the next thing comes up. She wants the other chair next to daddy, for example. And we already tried a lot of things to make that stop, but it didn't. So now she has the reward system. And she needed to get 5 stickers, which meant she needed to behave for 5 days during breakfast, lunch and dinner to get them. So she could get one of those stickers a day. But she had to behave for all 3 eating moments. And guess what? We started 5 days ago. Today she got the reward. So I think all the trouble she was causing wasn't really necessary. But on the other hand, I can understand her, with the other 3 kids all having special needs and taking up quite some time and attention. We take this as a scream for attention as well. Just need to make sure that to her it's not going to be any type of attention, because then negative attention is attention as well, and that's not going to be a good thing. But sometimes life is hard as a 4-year-old. Oh, I can't wait for spring to fully arrive, so that this cold can finally go away. Constantly it goes away a bit and then it's back, and it goes away a bit and then it's back, and it's getting pretty annoying. So yes, I'm gonna leave this model the way it is right now. How far are we? I think we're like 50 minutes. Yes, I can try and do some other stuff, but I'm gonna stop the video right here. I think it's gonna be pretty useless to start something else. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you got some progress in. Let me know what you have been doing for the past 50 minutes. I really like to read that and see it, and some of you have YouTube channels as well, so I see your stuff on there. And if you have a YouTube channel and I'm not subscribed to you, and you should be able to check that, let me know. Leave a link. I'll definitely check it out. So again, thank you for watching, and hopefully see you next time. Bye bye.